Sean Carter is a hermit crab.
Here it is.
You know how hermit crabs operate, right?
They go in their shell.
It's a skeletal
Yeah.
creature, but it doesn't have its own shell. It has to wait for another crab to die,
And go
jump
into its
inside
shell.
and put
Facts.
its shell on.
I had 3 victims that I've been working with, victims of the Carters, that were ready to come forward. This might help them feel a little more confident now. So this is great. Everything you see about him is an illusion, but what he loves the most is controlling you.
They told us Jay-Z was the ending of every messy story, not the common thread running through them. Aaliyah, Beyonce, Rihanna, a 16-year-old locked in an office until 3 a.m., a teenager who says she couldn't sleep for 3 days after signing, insiders warning Jaguar Wright that this is when people start turning up dead, and Diddy suddenly looking less like the final boss and more like a shield. Tonight, we're not asking you to believe every rumor. We're going to line up the timelines, the footage, and the slips in their own words. And then you tell us, is Jay-Z just a survivor of the industry's darkness, or the mastermind who learned to hide in everyone else's downfall? The strangest thing about Jay-Z's story isn't what we know. It's how many times his name shows up in the background of other people's nightmares.
Apparently, Jay-Z and also Pusha T's names turn up in these documents. In approximately 1994, Blank revealed herself to Blank as a past victim of abuse. Jeff described abuse occurring during parties, further identified Blank as a friend of Blank. Again, the redactions. In approximately 1996, Blank resided with Blank in Blank. An unknown man abducted her from her home, whence she later awoke in the presence of Harvey Weinstein and Sean Carter, Jay-Z, while Weinstein had, I'm not going to read that out loud. But it does say here that she believed she was in Epstein's mansion in Florida. The victim estimated she was abducted on 7 occasions, awaking each time in an opulent indoor setting, not alleging it's the same setting, a different setting, or just different opulent indoor settings, or I don't know. Blank suffered from on multiple of those occasions in which Epstein participated. Blank recalled Leon Black and William Barr, current United States Attorney General, being present during some of the occasions of. In approximately 2006, Blank last recalled being a Epstein.
On paper, those documents aren't supposed to be about him. His name appears on the edges, mentioned in tips and summaries, while other men sit in the center of the scandal. Still, the effect is the same. Millions of people hearing Jay-Z and those files in the same sentence for the first time, and realizing that the billionaire who always seemed above the dirt has been standing closer to it than they thought.
Reports going around that NFL have unfollowed Jay-Z on the app Instagram. They do still follow Beyonce and Roc Nation, so I'm not really sure why they would have just unfollowed him if that were to be the case. But then at the same time, if that isn't the case, why weren't you following him in the first place? Which I find to be bizarre. So perhaps NFL was following Jay-Z and then they unfollowed, but they also have that to deal with as well. So, you know, they're really under pressure here, because when the first lawsuit came out via Busby, NFL responded saying that we're not budging when it comes to our relationship with Jay-Z. We're still keeping that relationship. Jay-Z then came out to sue Busby for defamation, talking about how he lost 20 million. He lost the defamation lawsuit against Busby. He then lost the 20 million as well, because clearly he lost that money. Now, when it comes to this Epstein files, of course, his name is everywhere. It's going to damage advertiser relationships, meaning that he's also going to be losing money in this case, if he definitely lost money in a direct hit when it came to a lawsuit. Now, there is a video of Weinstein and Jay-Z that is going viral. Whoa, my laptop about to fall. And the video within itself is completely embarrassing, because why on earth is Weinstein doing PR for you, Jay-Z? Like, why on earth is Weinstein doing PR for you, talking about
in your thoughts on Donald Trump and what it means for mass incarceration?
You know what? This is a labor of love for Jay, and as a result, he's my friend. We're here to talk about that and nothing else.
Then can I ask you about mass incarceration? And do you think the movement is... Okay.
He's not going to be answering these questions. This is not what he needs to do. Harvey Weinstein shuts down a reporter who asked Jay-Z a question about Donald Trump in 2017. So I didn't even know that this video existed But if Weinstein was that close to Jay-Z to be doing PR for him in 2017, for goodness sake, then you damn well know that they had a relationship in 1996.
In your thoughts on Donald Trump and what it means for mass incarceration?
You know what? This is a labor of love for Jay, and as a result, he's my friend. We're here to talk about that and nothing else.
Well, then can I ask you about mass incarceration? And do you think the movement is... Okay.
I don't understand why they had an extensive relationship in the 2000s and, late 2000s, but for some reason they weren't able to be friends in 1996, which I think is definitely plausible. But this video is very sketchy. It's gone viral and it's applied more pressure to Jay-Z. So the NFL are feeling significant pressure.
Then you add the rest of the smoke. The NFL deal that made him the face of a league trying to clean up its image, the defamation battle he reportedly lost, the reports that the same PR world that once tried to rehab Harvey Weinstein's reputation had also gone to work for Jay-Z when things got tense. One by one, the institutions that used to feel like his armor, sports leagues, luxury brands, media machines, start to look more like a shield built to keep hard questions from ever landing at his feet. There's the teenager who says she was taken from an awards after party to a private house and later admitted her lawyer pushed her to add Jay's name to the lawsuit, even though she now says he never touched her. There's the woman who has spent decades insisting he fathered her child when she was still underage. None of those moments, by themselves, prove a crime. That's exactly why they were easy to ignore. A dismissed lawsuit here. We waited until she was 19 there. A nervous laugh in an old interview about not sleeping for 3 days after signing on their own. They're just anecdotes. But when you line them up the way Jaguar Wright does, they stop feeling random and start looking like a blueprint.
I want you to think about this. Allegedly, Sean Carter is responsible for enacting Hype Williams to put Aaliyah on a faulty plane to move her out the way as punishment for rejecting him, and so he could level up Beyonce, who was struggling. Let's just say allegedly that happened. Now I want you to think about 106th and Park with Mary J. Blige. Free, who is a victim of Sean Carter.
Yeah.
Mary J. Blige, who is a victim of Sean Combs, are sitting there talking about the death of Aaliyah amongst each other. Think about that. You got a Diddy victim, you got a Jay-Z victim, and you got a superstar gone. They know what happened. And yet, they had to sit there and have that conversation like they didn't know who did it. Think of the power of that moment. Think about Claudia Jordan right now. Claudia Jordan don't ever mention my mother name. She mentioned it yesterday. Talking about why people are afraid to come forward. You mean like you? You was Diddy girl. Corey was Jay-Z girl. Why don't you claim your friend?
In her version, Aaliyah, Beyonce, and Rihanna aren't just three superstar names on Jay-Z's resume. They're three stages of the same play. The girl every man wanted, the girl he decided would be his, and the girl who walked into his office as a minor and walked out carrying the weight of a deal she couldn't even sleep on. Around them, she says, were other women and girls who compared notes behind the scenes, understood exactly how powerful he and his friends were, and chose silence over becoming the next headline. If you want to understand Jaguar's list, you have to start with the moment where all three names, Aaliyah, Beyonce, Rihanna, quietly line up on the same timeline.
It's a 12-year age gap. Now, when speaking to 17 magazine in 2008, Beyonce said, "I was 18 when we first met and 19 when we first started dating." She continued, "There's no rush. No one expected me to run off and get married to him." Now, Beyonce has been firm that she met Jay-Z when she was 18. However, Jay-Z has previously implied that they first met when she was 16. famously declaring that she will be mine. There's also a photograph that was taken on the Destiny's Child's No 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 music video set, and this would be Jay-Z and Beyonce together just 2 months after she turned 16. So there's already one statement from Beyonce debunked. Now, I'm not saying that Jay-Z's done anything wrong at this point, but I'm saying that she was definitely 16. Another image from January 31st, 1998 captured Jay-Z attending a Destiny Child's performance in North Dallas when Beyonce, again, was still 16. During an interview in 2013 with Oprah, Beyonce emphasized that their relationship started over a year of phone conversations, stressing we were friends first and that foundation is so important. Well, it's interesting that Jay-Z would be calling up a 16, 17-year-old. Kind of reminds me of what grooming is.
Long before the wedding photos and the joint tours, there was just a 16-year-old girl in a girl group and a nearly 30-year-old rapper who, according to multiple accounts, told people around him that she would eventually be his. Beyonce's official story says they met when she was 18 and only started dating at 19, after a year and a half of friendship. But Jay himself has slipped and said he'd known her for about 10 years by 2007, which points straight back to those photos of a 28-year-old standing next to a 16-year-old on the No, No, No set. To some fans, that's just an age gap love story. To others, especially women who've watched this industry up close, it looks a lot like long-term planning. Get close while she's still being molded, become the mentor, then step into the boyfriend role once the paperwork says it's safe. That's exactly what people mean when they say the relationship feels groom-coded, even if it was technically legal.
Secondly, a lot of people have been hitting me about, how could Jaguar Wright know all these things, right? And how, Jaguar Wright hasn't worked with Jay-Z since, when she did the Unplugged. That's a long time ago. Well, I can tell you just from what I've experienced is the people that have contacted me since I've done your show and since I've done other shows, people have contacted me, other victims, and have sent me. Obviously, there's been some people that have sent me stuff that, doesn't check out or whatever, but victims have contacted me and they have sent me proof that can never be disputed, photos, everything else, because they don't want to bring their story out, but they like what we're doing. So they're whistleblowing, but they're doing quietly to protect their jobs and to protect their families and to protect, whatever. They're not comfortable speaking out. So if I've got all kinds of information in the last 2 months, just from doing, shows like you guys, I can't imagine all the stuff that Jaguar Wright has got and to her and the access that she's seen and the people who have came to her. She has such a bigger reach and such a bigger audience than me.
Now drop Rihanna onto that same map. At 16, she flies into audition for Jay-Z. He later brags that they didn't let her leave the office and kept her there until 3 a.m. to make sure she signed that night. Years later, Rihanna herself laughs nervously in an interview about how she was shaking in the lobby, waiting 12 hours, and didn't sleep for 3 days after putting her name on that contract. When Jonathan Hay, the publicist who helped launch her career, says on camera that there was a lot more going on behind the scenes than the public ever saw, it makes that sleepless teenager look less like a hungry newcomer and more like another girl caught in an orbit she didn't fully control. And hovering just behind both of them is Aaliyah. Dame Dash has flat out admitted that everybody was trying to get at Aaliyah, including Jay, and that they were effectively competing for her attention. Jaguar takes that one step further, arguing that Aaliyah was the first blueprint, the young woman who wouldn't fold into Jay's narrative, who chose someone else, and whose story ended in tragedy while he kept climbing. Put those threads together and you get the shape of Jaguar's accusation. Not that Jay-Z randomly dated 3 famous women, but that he consistently positioned himself in the lives of very young, highly valuable girls at the exact moment their futures were being decided. Aaliyah in her early 20s with every man in the business chasing her. Beyonce at 16 over 19 while her image was being carved. Rihanna at 16 signing contracts she couldn't even sleep on. From the outside, it looks like destiny. From the inside, the way Jaguar tells it, it looks like strategy. If Aaliyah was the one who slipped away, Jaguar says Rihanna was the one who got locked in before she even understood what that meant.
Longest 12 hours of my life. Like, I was just waiting downstairs and I was like, get the contract down here. I want to sign, I want to sign, I want to sign. I was so hyped. I didn't sleep for the next 3 days.
When Rihanna tells that story now, it plays like a funny, look how far I've come moment. But listen to the details. Being kept at the label for hours, signing a life-changing contract in the middle of the night, then going back to her room and staring at the ceiling for 3 days because something in her body knew there was no way back.
Speaking of PTSD, you made a comment about this. Like, this was from the Super Bowl appearance more recently. This bothered you, seeing her put the Rockefellers logo out there.
If you
what was
go
your
back
instinct to that?
and watch, it was almost as if she didn't want to put her hands up, and then she looked over where Jay-Z's box was, and then you just see her hands. She look at her. She's looking at his box. She didn't want to do it. She didn't even want to do that gig. But the hold, especially the financial hold with the companies and all of the money and all of the strings that he pulled to. He treats these women like shell corporations.
Is that why this happened? Do you have any insight on this infamous elevator video where Solange was seen just unloading on him? Beyonce's there as well.
What I will say is, right there, that's the moment when he told her to back up and called her Tito Jackson.
And respect
There was-
and love to Tito Jackson, who we just lost recently.
I know. Tito
Legend,
could never
yeah.
get a break, and he's the nicest guy.
But here,
yeah,
Jay-Z
there
trying to
was-
mimic, she's not worthy, she's nobody, is what he's trying to
Pretty
do.
much is what he pretty much said to her. But the thing is there was infidelity that was happening that night. Both of them got caught doing things they weren't supposed to do. I believe there might have been some DV that happened. And people who know Mr. Carter knows he doesn't have a problem with putting his hands on his wife. Plenty of people know that to be true. Solange is different. Allegedly, Solange is different. She's old school Southern, and she loves her big sister, even when her big sister makes mistakes. She stood up for her sister. The most interesting thing about that, though, can we look at that one more time, Andy? They come in, and all of this, and then look, it almost looks like he's going to defend himself, but instead he prostrates himself, right? He lets Solange go nuts, and then he sits there and acts. He knows that camera's there. He knows where all the cameras are in that place. There's another footage, and I'll get it and I'll send it to you, of him with another woman approaching him aggressively, or it seemed like aggressively, and he the crap out of her. Matter of fact, there's at least 5 different shows over the course of the past 15 years where he has physically women that came into his space that he didn't want anywhere near him. So I find it funny that in all those other instances, he had no problem with putting his hands on a woman to so-called defend himself. But when he's getting killed alive with cameras there, all of a sudden now he's meek and mild. I think that was a setup. I think he did that specifically to handle up on Solange.
Jaguar's version doesn't let that feeling go. She says Rihanna didn't just respect Jay, she feared him. According to her, both Rihanna and Beyonce spent years reading his moods, doing what he said, and absorbing the fallout of his temper while the world saw nothing but glamorous photos and hit records. In that framing, the elevator fight with Solange stops being random family drama and starts looking like the one moment somebody close to Beyonce snapped at the man in the middle because she'd seen too much and watched her sister endure more than she could handle well.
The rumors were even beyond that, right? That Jay-Z was cheating on Beyonce with her when she was
Very much
17
so.
is what a lot of this came out through a publicist who later then
Have
had
you
to
spoken
apologize.
to my friend Jonathan? Hey, you should talk to Jonathan.
Please.
Because Jonathan was there. He was right there working with Rihanna. And it was right when they started crafting her to be seen as a brand and commodity only and not a person. And when I talk to Jonathan now, just to hear him when he thinks of his teenage daughters, he was like, Rihanna was the same age my girls are now. I couldn't imagine putting my daughters through what we put her through. And then the next thing you know, she was removed from that first team from Palm the Replay and replaced with all new handlers and kept sheltered in Los Angeles, where she was going out to parties and partying at 15, 16, 17 years old, hanging out at the Rainbow Room, hanging out. Yeah, like they it was one of my friends who found out she was 17 when everyone thought she was 21. And he was like, yo, why do y'all got me carrying this girl around and she's it's cool.
Well, but just to echo and support you, like they had to debunk that. Oh, we apologize. It wasn't real. We made it up in hopes of giving her single a boost.
Yeah, they
like,
promised
what?
Jonathan a deal working at Tidal and something, and then they reneged. And then the next thing you know, he was caught in a home invasion robbery while he was working on the Drake secret baby mama story.
Jeez.
Sophie. He was duct taped him and his daughter, and he was pow whipped in front of his child. So, there's a lot that goes on in the backdrop.
Then there are the rumors Jaguar ties to the background. That talk of Jay and Rihanna crossing a line wasn't just gossip, and that the person who started speaking up about it suddenly found themselves dealing with a violent home invasion that sent a message to anyone else thinking about talking. It adds one more layer to the same picture. A young star pulled into the inner circle, an older man at the center of her career and personal life, and real-world consequences for people who treat that situation like something they have a right to question. Taken together, Rihanna's sleepless signing, the fear Jaguar describes, and the way conflict around her seems to get resolved off camera all point back to the same question this series keeps circling. In Jay-Z's world, are these women partners in a love story or pieces on a board he's been moving since they were teenagers? If you listen to Jaguar long enough, you realize she's not just talking about the women Jay-Z chose. She's talking about the men he chose to stand next to while those women were getting hurt.
Yo, don't put up no movies. I said, that's not my style. That's not what I'm going to do. Yeah, I could have put up movies. I could have showed the R. Kelly video that everybody's talking about, made fun of it, and said, yo, Jay's hanging out. When Jay and I was in there doing Best of Both Worlds, you can't tell me Jay didn't see a 14-year-old girl come in the studio and shit on R. Kelly's rap. You can't tell me, you won't sit here and tell me that working on that album, that he ain't never seen no 14-year-old girl come in the vicinity?
My belief is that anybody who's worked with him and been in his cypher has seen it go down.
You've seen it go down.
Yeah.
Nas doesn't mince words. He says straight up, if you're in the studio with R. Kelly in the early 2000s, you can't pretend you never saw young girls coming in and out. At that point, the whole world had already seen the tape and heard the stories. Yet Jay-Z still did 2 joint albums with Kelly, still went on tour with him, still built a whole best of both worlds brand around a man everybody knew had serious problems around teenage girls. Dame Dash later admitted that collaboration was one of the reasons he walked away. He said Aaliyah never wanted to talk about what happened with Kelly because it hurt too much, and that Jay knew exactly what kind of man he was partnering with. To Dame, that wasn't just bad business, it was a betrayal. To Jaguar, it's something darker, proof that Jay will stand shoulder to shoulder with anyone, no matter what they've done to young girls, as long as the music and the money line up. And this is where her victims knew each other line hits harder. She says there were women on opposite sides of the map, around Aaliyah, around Beyonce, around Rihanna, who compared notes quietly and realized the same men's names kept appearing in their stories. The message they all got was the same. You can speak up and risk everything, or you can stay quiet and survive. So when you put Nas's disgust, Dame's regrets, and Jaguar's testimony next to each other, you're left with a chilling picture. Even if you never prove what Jay personally did behind closed doors, his choices about who to work with, who to protect, and who to sacrifice say a lot about the world he chose to build around himself, and about how safe young women really were inside it. At some point, the question stops being who got hurt and starts being who was allowed to speak.
This has just took a turn. Now I need to talk to her. She said, miss me with the miss me with the bullshit. Here's my thing though, Foxy. They're looking at you. Like they're looking at you as like maybe you're holding a secret for this guy, right? So just to translate, I mean, you guys get it. Miss me with the hey, just miss me with the bull. If you don't want to be in the bull, now is the time to just be quiet. If you're speaking at all, it kind of says that maybe you got some, and we all know and believe Foxy's just a real chick. She's just not finna But it's like, if you're not coming out to say, yo, I love Jay, he's a great guy, he ain't do nothing, it's gonna be taken as either you're being silenced or you're itching to tell us something.
When Academics did his deep dive on Foxy and Jay, the response he got wasn't a clean denial or a lawsuit. It was a short, careful message from Foxy herself, calling the whole thing BS in public, but worded just vague enough that people argued for days over what she really meant. If there was truly nothing there, you'd expect a simple, flat, "this never happened." Instead, you get the kind of reply that feels less like closure and more like someone trying to swat a story away without actually opening their mouth about it. Jaguar says that's exactly how the system is designed to work. The women closest to Jay are either elevated to untouchable status, like Beyonce and Rihanna, or pushed so far to the margins that their only options are silence, cryptic posts, or rumors that never quite land in court. When you start talking about Jay-Z in the way Jaguar does, the backlash doesn't just come from fans. It comes from people who know exactly how dangerous those names can be. A former celebrity bodyguard, somebody who has worked around these circles for years, went on record basically telling Jaguar to watch her back. He said that after she spoke on Piers Morgan, Jay-Z and Beyonce sent legal letters, forced a public apology, and that this is when people start to turn up dead. It's about to get ugly. He also admitted he can't verify her specific numbers about hundreds of victims, but he didn't call her crazy. He called them monsters and told her, on camera, to be on her P's and Q's. At the same time, you have the long-running paternity fight from Rymir and his late mother, Wanda. In her sworn affidavit, Wanda says she met Jay-Z when she was 16, that he went by Rock, picked her up in Philadelphia, and took her back to his aunt's apartment in Brooklyn, where they hooked up once and never spoke again. Rymir has been trying for years to force a DNA test. The case keeps getting tossed on technical grounds, and Jay has never been compelled to prove anything one way or the other. It's another story that never becomes a conviction, but never quite goes away either. It's no longer just about what might have happened in studios or offices 20 years ago. It's about what it means, right now, to stand up in public and say that the most powerful couple in music didn't just survive the industry's darkness, they perfected it.
He was after Beyonce when she was before 18, correct? I mean, as we go through the timeline, they claim, oh no, I met him at 18 and then we waited till I was 19, but they knew each other when she was like 15, 16, correct? He clearly had eyes, and it's not the only one, right? There's Aaliyah as well. I was looking at these photos. There's a history
but Aaliyah,
of this, right?
Definitely. A lot of people don't realize the timeline, but after everything went bad with Robert Kelly and he had to divorce Aaliyah, Jay-Z was interested while she was still underage. And as she started spending more time in New York, he was very, very, very right there. She didn't want that. She didn't want that with him. And if there's one thing I can tell you about Sean Carter, being embarrassed and being rejected are things he does not handle well.
Jaguar isn't just gossiping about who dated who. She says Jay deliberately went after young women like Aaliyah and Beyonce at vulnerable points in their lives, and that the difference between them was simple. One handled it well by folding into his world, and one didn't. To her, that's not romance, that's selection. You either become part of the brand, or you end up as one more story people only whisper about after you're gone. There's one part of Jaguar's story that doesn't even start with the girls. It starts with the men Jay-Z chooses to stand behind, and when he chooses to move out of the way.
It's all come to a head now. Why now? Why?
Because he's the acceptable monster at this time, like R. Kelly was the last time I sat on this couch.
So who's next?
Y'all don't see the lineup?
Yeah, we see the lineup. I'm just waiting to see who's next.
Jay-Z is setting Diddy up. Why is everyone having such a hard time? He ain't doing shit different. He lined up D. Haven, stole his life and identity. He lined up Big L, stole his life and identity. He lined up Dame Dash, stole his life, identity, and took his love. Lined up R. Kelly. He wants to be the one.
The question isn't, is Diddy guilty? It's, why does it look like Jay-Z is always standing 2 steps behind the loudest monster in the room? Jaguar's angle is brutal. She says Jay has a history of aligning himself with people the industry already knows are dangerous, letting them soak up the attention, the allegations, and the eventual downfall, then quietly stepping over their bodies to a higher level of power. In her words, Diddy isn't the final boss. He's just the latest acceptable monster, lined up in front of someone who wants to be at the very top.
When they were going on tour, that Jay-Z used to have transgender women on there. On the tour bus, he knows that. He knows that Jay-Z used to prefer transgender women. So I don't know why. I wish Dame Dash would come out and, you know, say everything, but maybe in his own way, he's trying to, you know, protect the hip hop culture and knows how many people could be crushed if he came out and really spoke about Jay-Z's secrets. You know, they set out to do that, you know?
Did you personally see Jay-Z with transgender women? You personally?
I have, correct.
Can you speak on like maybe in what aspect? Is it music video or outside of music videos?
It was during it was during the tour. It was during the tour with the Mill, DMX, Jay-Z.
The Hard Knock Life.
No.
Or maybe a different one.
Yeah, with they had the documentary for it. What was that called? I'll think of it. I'll think of it here in a little bit.
Yeah, it was a documentary, backstage or
the backstage with the Mill and all that. I used to work with her, and I definitely. It was unmistakable. You know, in 2024, the trans women are, you know, it can be hard. You know, like a lot of people that, you know, they don't know, but back then it wasn't as advanced, and you could clearly tell, you know, that was a guy.
Jonathan Hay adds a different kind of detail. He talks about how Dame Dash could tell the secrets about Jay's private life, about nights with trans women, and a side of his intimate life the public never sees. All while Jay was supposed to be the devoted husband standing next to Beyonce. The point isn't who he was with, it's that there seemed to be 2 Jays, the carefully scripted family man in the spotlight, and the man Hay and Dame say they watched moving very differently when the cameras were off. That split feeds Jaguar's whole theory. If he can compartmentalize his personal life that hard, what else has he been able to separate from the image we're sold?
Allegedly, the song Daughter on Beyonce's Cowboy Carter album.
I love that one.
Well, it's potentially a murder confession about Jay-Z's mistress, Kathy White.
What?
Yeah, buckle up. On August 28th, 2011, Beyonce announced her pregnancy at the MTV VMAs.
Iconic.
On January 7th, 2012, Blue Ivy was born into this world. In 2016, Beyonce dropped Lemonade. Now, as we all know, Lemonade was a true album about infidelity. Jay-Z was rumored to have a very long-time mistress. It was well known in the industry. People knew of Kathy White because of Jay-Z, okay? Yikes. So here's where it gets a little crazy. Kathy White was known to be pregnant in 2011. Shortly after giving birth, Kathy died mysteriously in her apartment of a brain aneurysm.
I have a feeling this is related.
Okay. Now, even though we saw Beyonce's bump publicly, there's a video of Beyonce sitting down for an interview and her whole stomach just deflates in the video. And it's very weird.
This is crazy.
If you listen to Daughter, the song completely illustrates a murder confession. The lyrics in the song say, "Your body laid out on these filthy floors, your bloodstains on my custom coutures. Bathroom attendant let me right in. She was a big fan. I tried to stay cool, but your arrogance disturbed my solitude. Now I ripped your dress and you're all black and blue. Look what you made me do." So fans are speculating that Beyonce had Kathy White killed after Kathy White had the baby and claimed the baby as her own, and that baby is Blue Ivy.
Then there's the Kathy White rumor. People saying Beyonce wasn't just an innocent bystander, but allegedly helped manage or bury fallout around another woman connected to Jay. Nothing about that has been proven, and it lives in the rumor category. But the fact that Beyonce's name even enters that conversation tells you how fans are starting to see this couple, not as a saint and a sinner, but as a unit willing to do whatever it takes to protect the brand they've built together. In the end, you don't need a smoking G to feel how heavy this pattern is. You've seen the timelines, the age gaps, the sleepless contracts, the loyal silences, and the way certain men always seem to fall first while others stay mysteriously untouched. So now it's on you. After hearing Jaguar, Nas, Dame, and Rihanna's own memories, does Jay-Z still look like a man who just survived a dirty industry, or like someone who learned how to make that dirt work for him? And if the same name keeps appearing next to young stars, closed-door deals, and acceptable monsters taking the blame, is that all just coincidence? Or the outline of a mastermind everyone's been too scared to call out until now? If you like this video, hit that subscribe button so that you never miss out on any new videos. And until then, fam, keep it real.